Philly Startup Leaders presents Founder Factory 2015. This program was recorded January 13th, 2015 at The Hub at Cirrus Center in Philadelphia. This year's Founder Factory is brought to you by these sponsors: Broadpath, the Innovation Center at 3401, Startup PHL, and Morgan Lewis. Video 3, Diane Ruth, Vice President of Guru and Executive Director of Business Development at Boomi, describes how Boomi implemented its business development program.
Our next presenter, I have actually worked with her. I do make it a policy to never compliment people who I work with, because then they just, their egos get out of control and it leads to just really bad behavior. But I am super excited that Diane is here talking today, because when we brought her into Boomi, all we had really done was tested that the BD channel could work for us, but we didn't really know what we were doing, and so we brought in some professional help to help us. And there's a screen appearing. No, you shouldn't have to. I think if you just go full screen, you're good.
Oh, I'm there.
You're there. So please join me in welcoming Diane Ruth.
Thank you. And I'm not accustomed to speaking, so Rick, could you please hold the mic while I... So thank you for the introduction. I'm going to be speaking specifically to one key channel, which is relative to business development, and how Boomi, which is now Dell Boomi, basically kicked off their overall channel program. My agenda today, I'll do a brief introduction of myself. I will elaborate as to how Boomi's business development team had started. I was somewhat the original member of that team. In addition, obviously, Bob Mao and Rick Nucci. And what worked, what didn't work, because I'm sure that everyone is keen to understand really kind of the whiffs that we experienced to assist your efforts, and proven results, as well as the pitfalls in general to partnering. So, brief introduction of myself. I'm currently working Glutton for Punishment with Rick Nucci once again, a company by the name of Guru, and that's www.getguru.com. We are an organization that allows you to discover, curate, verify, and manage your knowledge, your organizational knowledge. But that's not the topic of today's discussion, but these are the key functions that I am performing for Guru today. Fairly diverse, unlike my experience at Dell Boomi, which was hyper-focused in business development. So, and when I say or speak to business development, I'm speaking to strategic alliances. So I was responsible for partner acquisition, onboarding our partners, as well as the ongoing success management of those relationships that we established. So just to provide you a kind of a background on Boomi specifically and what that solution afforded. Basically, it was first to market integration platform as a service. And what that basically means is a SaaS solution that allowed you to interoperate applications, disparate applications that were both cloud-based as well as on-premise. So we can integrate your Salesforce environment to your back office financial system, for example, and as represented by this slide. Boomi originated in 2000, and basically Rick Nucci was the co-founder, or is the co-founder. It wasn't until, though, 2005, 2006 when they did a slight pivot. Now, they were always enmeshed in the integration space. But 2005, 2006, Bob Mao and Rick Nucci had made the determination that SaaS solutions, while a nascent emerging market, needed to interoperate to those kind of existing assets that customers had. So that, again, would be your SAP environment to your Salesforce, to your Intact, to your NetSuite. So that basically was the impetus for designing and bringing to market a formal iPaaS solution. They introduced, after kind of initial development, Boomi to the market in 2007 at Dreamforce, launched in January of 2008, formally launched, and I was hired in July of 2008 after they received funding, obviously, in order to hire me. Pre-acquisition, we had 2 business development representatives, myself being one of them, one of the 2 channel management, and then 1 designated sales engineer, which is actually Rick. So he basically worked with me hand in hand in meeting all of the prospective partners that we were obviously trying to sign as formal partners. Post-acquisition, which was in November of 2010, Dell Boomi came to bear. Obviously, that afforded reinvestment. We no longer had to struggle against the viability factor that consistently came up with partners as well as direct customers. Dell afforded us that luxury of no longer people claiming, if you'd be in business, in 2 months from now. And post-acquisition also gave us the luxury of hiring additional resources because we were really operating on quite a skeleton team at the time that we had been acquired. I'd also wanted to note that the inception of that acquisition was a result of Dell not being able to formally negotiate a reseller agreement with myself, so they were somewhat in a forced position of acquiring us. I partially kid. So Boomi's business development and how we did it. First and foremost, when you're evaluating a channel approach, you need to determine if your solution is viable for a channel to bring to market. So fortuitously, Boomi had been designed, the initial conception, design, and architecture was fully partner-enabled. And when I say partner-enabled, I'm speaking to a multi-tenant platform that allowed parent-child relationships for partners to easily build their integration processes and then deploy them across those multiple child accounts so they could repurpose the assets that they had built in the platform itself. And that led to, again, early days, devising a business model that recognized that integration is not driving your sales efforts. Really, it's the SaaS applications that customers are procuring, are basically purchasing, that are driving the need for integration. So that was basically recognized very early on in the process. So the go-to-market model in the early days, and I'm speaking to 2006, 2007, was viewed as an indirect sales approach that they wished to take. Key attribute, again, recognizing that Boomi was not a nice to have, so there was a distinct need for partners, or that partners could bring Boomi to market. It was a mission critical or business critical service. So, is this something that's going to entice or incent a channel to basically bring to the market on your behalf? They're going to be an extension of your sales team. So, obviously, this was a solution that would be of extreme value and benefit to a channel. Another key attribute is having organizational alignment, and this is speaking internally specifically, and I'll go a little more into detail relative to your partner organizational alignment. But having the executives bought in, obviously, at the get-go, obviously cascades across the organization. So it wasn't only, the executives, it was the support team, it was the dev team, it was the entire organization that really needed to buy in. And we fortunately had that. Flexibility in pricing and licensing. So again, overall reduction in your TCO. These partners are going to be representatives of your team. They are taking the cost of sale. they're assuming the cost of technical support and servicing their customers. So this was a key attribute, and the reason why you need to have flexibility in your pricing and licensing when you're discussing with partners or prospective partners. Another key facet is the fact that, what is viewed as importance or value to you. Obviously we felt integration, could command a very high dollar, high ticket. Is not necessarily the view of your partner. We went in thinking, we can command 20% of their overall license fee. Well, in many cases that may have whittled down to 10%, and in the instance of Salesforce, 3%. But again, that's something that you need to really reflect on, is that partners are going to minimize your overall total cost of ownership. Having repeatability, having a partnership model and the design of those partner programs, something that you can basically repeat on multiple occasions. And I'll go into greater detail as far as the models that had worked for us and those that did not. Having a very structured channel readiness and onboarding program, that was also instrumental in gaining, kind of rapid growth, adoption, as well as delivery. Obviously, the need to accelerate your ramp-up period is to have a very defined program for your partners. The infrastructure to automate and support your channel. So this was obviously key when you wish to expand that channel and recognize that your existing infrastructure may not be suitable to address a partner's needs. So having maybe a formal partner relationship management system, as well as the means for your partners to automatically deploy your solution was key to kind of expanding our overall network. And then lastly, on this particular slide, comp plan parity. If you do not say if you have a direct sales team as well as business development or a partnership team, you must incent or comp your sales representatives, your direct sales representatives, in the same fashion as if they sold the license. So if partner is selling to their customer, you need to compensate your own sales team in kind. So what worked and what didn't work? I'm going to go into more granular detail here. So you'll see what didn't work, and which was a huge whiff that we did not anticipate, because everyone had the belief, and this is not only those internally within Boomi, but even a Gartner representative that we had enlisted. They all felt that really the consulting systems integration space was going to be kind of our go-to channel, where in fact an integration platform that provides efficiencies, is going to is going to decrease their billable hours versus extend them. So we did not recognize the traction that we initially thought we would with consulting SI community. That came much later, maybe stage 4. But initially, it was basically a huge obstacle for us to gain audience. What did work, and what we did identify as kind of a key target market for us, was the leading SaaS solution providers. So they're the ones experiencing the pain during the sales cycle of how do we integrate to our back office system. And this was something that came up consistently. And fortunately, the customers were starting to demand that of these SaaS solution providers. So it was increasing their overall time of sale, given the fact that they could not address the integration challenge. So we did a very rigorous process of really doing an overall taxonomy of that SaaS space. So obviously you don't have to, kind of see, each and every one in which we initially targeted, but this was actually from 2009. And there are certainly some mistakes, and we tried to identify specific companies that had an integration problem. One would initially think, again, the consulting SI community and managed service providers would be a great portfolio to pursue. Or business intelligence, analytics, another key area that would require, integration from multiple disparate systems. That wasn't the case. We did recognize certainly some opportunity initially with CRM, with finance, e-billing, e-procurement, but again, it took some time. So further to speak to how we did it and what worked and what didn't work. When you do not have an executive sponsor, or you basically lack key stakeholders across your partner's organization, you're not going to succeed. While I highly admire my business development brethren, they're not going to basically, drive, the charter for you on behalf of your organization across that specific partnership opportunity. You really need to basically align with all the key constituents. They're going to be bringing your solution to market or servicing your solution or providing the support of your solution. You need everyone's buy-in across the board. So when you kind of come into contact with just the business development representative, really force those relations across the organization versus just that BD rep. So our go-to-market pricing and licensing was based on the number of connections. You need to realize that that is not aligned to your partner's go-to-market pricing or licensing model. You really need to basically, kind of align to their go-to-market. So we basically came up with some very clever business or financial modeling on a case-by-case basis, but it actually did prove to be very beneficial for us, given the fact that they were able to understand how to take integration to market and basically encompass it as part and parcel to their own solution. Which brings us to the partner model. So various types of partner relationships that you can structure. These were the ones that had worked for us and that did not work for us. Specifically a reseller model, a referral model. Initially out of the gate, they were basically Barney relationships. I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with that term. But they really were kind of like, handshake, we'll see you later. And they moved on. We didn't get mind share. We didn't really kind of get any true traction with that type of model. What actually did prove to be beneficial for us, and this is, again, largely with those independent software vendors, the SaaS solution providers, was the OEM or a service provider relationship. And what those relationships are is they're taking your technology and they're embedding it within their own solution, or they're offering it white labeled or private labeled as their own solution. So in the OEM model, they were basically packaging Boomi as part of their own. They may have basically stated, it was Boomi's integration platform, but they included it in the majority of those sales in which they were bringing to market, so in line with their sales efforts. Service providers are a little indifferent. Some people may know it as a service bureau. Basically, what those organizations did was offer this as a pure hosted service and solution. The customer was not even aware that Boomi was in existence. So they basically included integration as a part of their overall package. They didn't even have to line item Boomi in that equation, and they were delivering as a pure managed service in line with their own solution. Another key attribute that we found that obviously also speaks to the business models in which you're structuring is if there's no skin in the game from your partner, there typically isn't a whole lot of focus on bringing Boomi to market. Or any solution to market. So while this obviously was more of a stage 2 initiative for us, after we gained kind of some credence in the market, it really was kind of the game changer for us. So when a partner, a prospective partner, really provided no level of commitment and that could have been in the form of revenue commitment, sales projections, et cetera. We didn't see much opportunity with them. It wasn't until kind of a level of investment had been provided that we absolutely saw some additional increase, because they basically have made an investment and want to recognize the value on that investment. Don't rely on existing resources. And again, this may have been more of a stage 2. Obviously, having the organizational alignment is going to assist you when you're initially kind of getting your initial partners in place. But putting resources, dedicated representatives in place to support your partners is an imperative. So we hired, not many. We still had a very lightweight team, but one of the first hires that I did have was relative to partner program administration. So they were responsible for kind of assuming and that's going to actually bring us to the next. They were responsible for the training and onboarding program and designing that program and ensuring that each partner is going through that process. Having designated sales engineers and support, because a partner sale is very, very different than direct sales. You really need to think outside the box, and that's why Rick was so instrumental when we signed our initial partners, is because he also had responsibility for a roadmap, and partners are going to really drive that roadmap. So you really need someone that has the understanding of the technology quite intimately in order to help understand really what that partner is looking for. Tech resources. We did hire an individual that was the tech resource manager and assisted us in ensuring that they were going to be fully enabled and equipped to deliver Boomi in line with their own solution. It accelerated the ramp-up period exponentially. So highly recommend a tech resource to kind of walk your partners through that ramp-up and address any complications that may arise. The existing training at the onset is good enough. So I'm not going to undermine, the training that you provide to your existing customers, direct customers, but there is certainly training that needs to be, kind of thoughtfully understood from a partner. Again, they're going to be driving the sales efforts for you. They're an extension of your sales team. They're an extension of your tech support team and services team. They need to be trained just like you're, a net new employee is going to be trained in those functions. So that the training really needs to be far more in-depth than just a customer training. And then I had mentioned previously, your existing infrastructure, your existing systems will be good enough at the onset, but having a formal partner relationship management system is really imperative in managing and also kind of customizing and allowing automation that is repeatable, that is reusable. So I highly recommend partner relationship management system. We did use Salesforce's PRM. Which proved to be very beneficial for us, especially when we started the process of automating the deployment process, so allowing our partners to deploy their own customers. And the last item was really kind of expecting that your sales team is going to graciously defer to the channel. That's not the case, and will only result in channel conflict that you'll need to manage. And that's, a prime way to kill a relationship. So I highly recommend incenting your sales team the way in which, they would be incented from a direct sale. So in lieu of all of the kind of measures that we put in place to ensure that our partners were successful, we did recognize tremendous growth, as well as, the success of our channel, which was, Boomi's channel contributed over 50% of revenues, as well as 70% of the overall customer count. In 2008, when I initially started, there were 20 Atomsphere customers. When I had left Dell Boomi, we recognized a little over 2,000. We had 70 plus leading SaaS industry independent software vendors, as well as SIs, which ultimately came, again, stage 4. and received awards recognition across the board. And another key attribute that you can also gain from your community, and I'm speaking partner community, is word of mouth, marketing opportunities there. You've established a reputation that others are going to be interested in, obviously will gravitate towards the same success that maybe their competitors are seeing. So we also had seen a Me Too situation with certain product orientations such as HRM, HCM. And that's human resource management or human capital management solution providers such as SAP SuccessFactors. And then there's also the cross-pollination. You can introduce the various consulting community that you build to the various software solution providers within your partner community. And then the pitfalls of partnering. Again, this is across the board. This is something that every organization should recognize. It doesn't happen overnight. There's a lot of work that needs to be focused on a channel. And again, you must have a channel-ready solution, or at least one that will incent and drive partners to want to resell or include in their own solution. Organizational alignment and ongoing support. Partnerships are not just a once and done situation, it's ongoing management and support of that relationship. Another key attribute that Bob Mao had issue in understanding was that you have no control over revenue, costs, investments, time to market. These are key attributes that you need to understand, that it's you're going to have a spiky kind of financial model for quite some time. You may be dealing with constrained resources, and again, at the onset, that's to be expected, but just recognize that you should be aware of those positions that you should ultimately fill. Attrition of partner key stakeholders and executive sponsors. That was a key obstacle that we consistently had to overcome, largely because the mergers and acquisitions that were occurring in the space, and I'm speaking specifically to the SaaS marketplace. But we were fortunate because even post-acquisition, we still maintained those relationships. I'm speaking to Oracle right now, Oracle Taleo, SAP SuccessFactors. Those relationships were forged prior to the acquisition. We were successfully able to manage them. And that was even with IBM Connexa, which is a good segue to our next presenter. But before he is introduced, I would like to address, do I have time for any Q&A? Maybe one or two? No? Okay. I didn't plan it that way, I'm sorry. But my contact information, I will be here throughout the day if anyone has any questions, and I appreciate your time today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this program. For more information on Founder Factory and the Philly Startup Leaders, visit phillystartup.leaders.org. We produce this program in the studios of the Lubetkin Media Companies in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, on the web at beingthemedia.com. For everyone at Philly Startup Leaders and the Lubetkin Media Companies, this is Steve Lubetkin. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you out there on the net. Take good care.